Big trouble is brewing and your money is not safe. Let me be clear, this is the one video the US government does not want you to watch. Banks are in big trouble. You've seen all over the news about the Silicon Valley Bank collapse. However, this is just the beginning. For many years, US banks have been provided with interest-free money from the US government in order to prop up the US stock market and buy government bonds. There has been an undocumented and hidden rule among Wall Street, which was banks that would buy US government bonds would get first-class treatment in access to interest-free money. The US banking system has become a tool for the US government to create the illusion of a strong US economy by printing free money out of thin air and then giving it to banks and allowing them to raise more debt. However, this only works for a limited time because the more money you print, the higher inflation rises. As you would have seen all over the news, inflation rates are out of control. Therefore, the US government had to step in and stop the flow of interest-free money from the government to the banks and raise interest rates. Economic policy teaches us that when interest rates go up, spending goes down and vice versa. Banks which got used to making big profits by manipulating the market with this interest-free money from the government are starting to struggle and beginning to collapse. Compare the banks to the likes of a junkie. The banks are no longer getting their regular and free hit, and as a result they're starting to crumble. The US government bonds which US banks purchase with your government deposits in order to get their free hit of interest-free money is now becoming what we call a toxic asset. With the increase in interest rates, the global demand for US treasuries is starting to sink faster than the Titanic. The value of these US government bonds, which US banks were incentivized by the US government to purchase, are decreasing significantly in value. And the reason for this is the yield or rate of return on these US government bonds is much lower than current market interest rates. So as a result, the value of these US bonds start to decrease and these US banks begin to take on big unrealized losses. And in the case of the Silicon Valley Bank, if customers get a whiff of this, we start to have a bank run. The bank tries to sell its US government bonds, it can't get its money back, and the bank collapses because it just can't pay the money out to its customers. This is a ticking time bomb which has been created by the US government. It's been created by the US government and it's currently being set off by the US government. And the worst part is President Biden has said investors of failed banks will not be compensated because it's their own fault for making bad investments. In reality, we are all victims of this US Ponzi scheme which has just been running like a circus. The future outlook of the US economy is very grave right now, and history always repeats itself. About 200 years ago, we saw the same thing with the Dutch Empire. About 100 years ago, we saw the same thing with the British Empire. And right now, history is repeating. We are seeing everything unravel again, but this time with the US Empire. Make sure you protect yourself. If you're holding large cash balances or investments in any banks, make sure you are covered by the insurance value.